I refused to invite my golden child brother to my wedding. So my parents threatened to cut me off. Then they tried to crash the wedding and got the biggest shock of their lives. I'm Sarah, 30F, and I've always had a complicated relationship with my younger brother, Mike, 107M. Growing up, our parents consistently favored him, which created a lot of tension between us. They would shower Mike with praise for even the smallest accomplishments while barely acknowledging my achievements. Our family dynamic wasn't always this way. When I was younger, before Mike was born, I remember feeling loved and supported by my parents. They would take me to the park, read me bedtime stories, and proudly display my artwork on the fridge. But everything changed when Mike arrived. From the moment he was born, it was clear that Mike was going to be the golden child. Our parents doted on him constantly, often neglecting my needs in the process. As we grew older, this favoritism only intensified. I vividly remember my 10th birthday. I had been begging for a bicycle for months, dropping hints and even leaving magazine clippings around the house. When the big day came, I eagerly unwrapped my presents, only to find clothes and books. My parents explained that a bike was too expensive. Just 2 weeks later, they surprised Mike with a brand new bike for no particular reason. When I asked why he got one and I didn't, they said, "Mike needs more exercise. You're fine without one." This pattern continued throughout our childhood. When I made the honor roll in middle school, my parents barely glanced at the certificate. But when Mike got a B+ on a single test, they took the whole family out for a celebratory dinner. The disparity in how we were treated became even more apparent as we entered our teenage years. When I was 16, I got my first part-time job at a local bookstore. I was thrilled to finally have my own source of income and started saving for college. However, my excitement was short-lived. Mike, then 13, complained to our parents that it wasn't fair that I had spending money while he didn't. Instead of encouraging him to wait until he was old enough to get his own job, our parents made an outrageous demand. They insisted that I give Mike half of my earnings each month. I was shocked and tried to protest, but they threatened to make me quit the job if I didn't comply. Reluctantly, I agreed, watching half of my hard-earned money go to my brother, who spent it frivolously on video games and junk food. This incident set a precedent for Mike to feel entitled to my things. Throughout high school, he would regularly borrow my belongings without asking. Clothes, electronics, even my car once I got my license. If I dared to complain, our parents would lecture me about the importance of sharing with my brother. They never seemed to consider that Mike should learn to respect other people's property. Despite the constant favoritism, I worked hard in school, hoping that academic success might finally earn me some recognition from my parents. When I got accepted to my dream college with a partial scholarship, I was over the moon. I rushed home to share the news, envisioning a proud reaction from my parents. Instead, they gave a lukewarm response saying, "That's nice, honey," before quickly changing the subject to Mike's latest football game. In contrast, when Mike got into a local community college a few years later, our parents threw him a lavish party. They invited the entire extended family, ordered catering, and even hired a live band. As I watched them celebrate Mike's mediocre achievement, I couldn't help but feel a mix of hurt and resentment. The final straw came during my sophomore year of college. I had been saving up for months to buy a high-quality camera for my photography class. Photography had become my passion, a creative outlet that helped me cope with the stress of my family situation. I had researched extensively and finally found the perfect camera that fit my budget. I came home for winter break, excited to finally make my purchase. But when I went to get my savings, I discovered that a significant amount was missing. I soon found out that Mike had taken the money without permission to buy a new gaming console. When I confronted him, he shrugged it off, saying I could just save up again. Our parents refused to make him return the console or pay me back, dismissing my distress with the casual, "You should have hidden your money better." This incident was the breaking point for me. I realized that no matter what I did, I would never be a priority in my family. After that, I distanced myself as much as possible. I took on extra jobs to support myself through college, rarely coming home for visits. When I did, Mike would make snide comments about how I thought I was too good for the family now. Our parents never corrected his behavior, often joining in with comments about how I had changed and become cold towards them. Despite the emotional toll, I managed to graduate with honors and secure a good job in marketing. It was at my new job that I met Jake, 32NM, who would become my rock and biggest supporter. We've been together for 5 years now, and he's been incredibly understanding about my family situation. Jake's own family is warm and welcoming, showing me what healthy family relationships should look like. 6 months ago, Jake proposed during a surprise weekend getaway. It was a magical moment, and I was thrilled to start planning our future together. However, the joy of our engagement was quickly overshadowed by the dread of dealing with my family during the wedding planning process. After much discussion and soul-searching, I decided not to invite Mike or my parents to the wedding. I want our special day to be filled with love and positivity, not overshadowed by the negativity and resentment that has characterized my relationship with my family. Last week, my mom called me in tears, demanding to know why they hadn't received wedding invitations yet. I took a deep breath and explained that given our history, I didn't feel comfortable having them at the wedding. She accused me of being selfish and trying to punish them, completely dismissing my feelings as usual. My dad then got on the phone, saying I was breaking Mike's heart by excluding him from such an important day. Apparently, Mike had been telling everyone he was going to be my best man, despite the fact that we've barely spoken in years. The audacity of his assumption left me speechless. I stood my ground and told them my decision was final. This led to Mike blowing up my phone with angry texts, calling me every name in the book. He accused me of being jealous of him and trying to make myself feel important. It was as if he had completely rewritten our childhood in his mind, casting himself as the victim. My parents are now threatening to cut me out of their will if I don't invite them all to the wedding. This threat might have worked years ago, but I've long since stopped expecting or wanting anything from them. Jake fully supports my decision, understanding how toxic my family dynamic is. He's offered to handle any further communication with them to shield me from their manipulation tactics. Some of my friends, however, have suggested that I should just invite them to keep the peace. They argue that I might regret it if I don't have my family at my wedding. Their words have planted a seed of doubt in my mind. Am I being too harsh? Should I give them one last chance? But then I remember all the hurt and disappointment, and I'm reminded of why I made this decision in the first place. I know this post is long, but I felt it was important to provide context for why I'm making this choice. So, Reddit? AETA for refusing to have my brother and parents at my wedding? Update 1. Thank you all for the overwhelming support on my original post. Your comments and messages have been a source of strength during this difficult time. I wanted to provide an update on the situation, as there have been several developments over the past couple of weeks. After discussing things further with Jake, I decided to stand firm in my decision not to invite Mike or my parents to the wedding. However, Jake suggested that meeting with them in person to explain my reasoning might provide some closure for all of us. Although I was hesitant, I agreed it was worth a try. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a quiet cafe in a neighboring town. I arrived with Jake, feeling a mix of anxiety and determination. My parents and Mike were already there, my mom's eyes red from crying and my dad wearing his signature disapproving frown. Mike, surprisingly, looked more subdued than I expected. As soon as we sat down, my mom launched into a tearful monologue about family loyalty and how I was tearing everyone apart. My dad interjected with comments about how ungrateful I was being. I let them speak, taking deep breaths to stay calm. When they finally ran out of steam, I calmly explained my position. I brought up specific instances of how they had hurt me over the years, including the camera incident and the constant favoritism. I told them that while I cared about them, I didn't feel we had the kind of relationship that warranted them being at my wedding. To my shock, Mike spoke up. In a quiet voice, he admitted that he had intentionally broken my camera back in college. He confessed that he had always felt insecure about my academic success and resented that I was leaving him behind by going to college. He said he wanted to bring me down a peg, to make himself feel better. The table fell silent after this revelation. Our parents seemed stunned, as if they were seeing our dynamic clearly for the first time. My mom tried to smooth things over, saying, "Well, that was a long time ago. We should let bygones be bygones." But I wasn't having it. I pointed out that Mike's admission only proved my point about the toxic dynamic in our family. My dad then tried a different approach. He offered to pay for the entire wedding if we'd include them. I was taken aback by this attempt at financial manipulation. I declined, explaining that it wasn't about money, but about surrounding ourselves with people who genuinely support us. This seemed to really upset Mike. He started ranting about how I've always thought I was better than the family, and that I was going to regret pushing them away. It was as if all his earlier remorse had evaporated, replaced by the familiar anger and resentment. At that point, Jake, who had been quietly supportive throughout the conversation, suggested it was time for us to leave. As we were getting up, my mom grabbed my arm, tearfully asking if this meant I was cutting them out of my life forever. I told her honestly that I didn't know, but that I needed space to heal and figure things out. In the days following this meeting, my phone has been constantly buzzing with messages from extended family members. It seems that Mike and my parents have been spinning their own version of events, telling everyone that I'm having a mental breakdown and trying to destroy the family. My aunt even called, suggesting I postpone the wedding until I come to my senses. The constant barrage of messages and calls has been emotionally draining. I found myself second-guessing my decision at times, wondering if I'm overreacting. But then I remember the years of hurt and dismissal, and I know I'm doing the right thing for myself. Jake has been my rock through all of this. Seeing how my family treated me at the meeting only reinforced his support of my decision. He suggested we take a weekend trip to get away from all the drama and focus on our relationship. We ended up driving to a quaint little beach town a few hours away. During our trip, we spent time walking on the beach, trying local restaurants, and just enjoying each other's company without the cloud of family drama hanging over us. One evening, as we watched the sunset, Jake told me how proud he was of me for standing up for myself. He reminded me that we're creating our own family now, one built on mutual respect and love. This getaway was exactly what I needed to reaffirm my decision and refocus on the exciting future ahead of us. We even started discussing the possibility of moving to a new city after the wedding for a fresh start, away from the constant reminder of my family's toxicity. When we returned home, I made the difficult decision to block my family's numbers and social media accounts. It felt extreme, but I realized I needed to protect my peace of mind as we approached the wedding. We've also taken some practical steps to ensure our wedding day goes smoothly. We've hired security for the venue in case any uninvited guests try to show up. We've also password protected all our vendor accounts so no one can make changes to our plans. It's sad that we have to take these precautions, but I want to be prepared for anything. As the wedding draws closer, I'm trying to focus on the positive aspects. Marrying the love of my life, surrounded by friends who have become family. Yes, there's still a lingering sadness about the situation with my biological family. But I'm learning to accept that I can't change them or force them to treat me with respect. All I can do is move forward and create the life and family I deserve. Thank you again for all your support. It means more than you know to have people validate my feelings after years of being gaslit by my family. I'll post another update after the wedding to let you all know how it goes. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments in the situation with my family and our wedding plans. First, the good news. Jake and I have finalized most of the details for our wedding, and we're both getting excited. We've decided to have a smaller celebration than initially planned, with just our closest friends and Jake's family in attendance. It feels much more intimate and meaningful this way. We've chosen a beautiful garden venue for the ceremony and reception. The florist has designed stunning arrangements featuring my favorite flowers, and we've planned a menu that reflects both of our tastes. Jake and I have been practicing our first dance, which has led to a lot of laughter and stepped on toes, but it's been a fun way to de-stress from all the family drama. Now for the not-so-good news. Despite my clear wishes, my family has continued to try and insert themselves into our wedding plans. Last week, my mom showed up unannounced at my workplace. I was in a meeting when my colleague came to get me, saying there was a distraught woman in the lobby insisting on seeing me. When I got to the lobby, I found my mom in tears, causing a scene. She was crying and begging me to reconsider, saying she had already bought a dress for the wedding and couldn't bear the thought of not seeing her baby girl walk down the aisle. She had brought photo albums of my childhood, as if seeing pictures of happier times would change my mind. I was mortified and angry that she would ambush me at work like that. I firmly told her to leave and that if she pulled a stunt like that again, I would have to involve security. She left in tears, and I spent the rest of the day feeling anxious and distracted. My boss was understanding, but I couldn't shake the feeling of embarrassment. A few days after this incident, I received a lengthy email from Mike. Unlike his previous angry messages, this one seemed more reflective. He wrote about how he had been doing a lot of thinking since our meeting at the cafe. He acknowledged that he had been a terrible brother growing up and said he wanted to make amends. Mike went into detail about how he had always felt overshadowed by my achievements and had lashed out because of his own insecurities. He even offered to pay for the camera he broke all those years ago, saying he had looked up the model and found its current value. While part of me appreciated the gesture and the apparent self-reflection, I couldn't help but feel it was too little. Too late. Years of hurt and resentment don't disappear with one email, no matter how well-intentioned. I replied thanking him for the apology, but reiterating that I needed space and that my decision about the wedding was final. Unfortunately, things took another turn when I found out that Mike had somehow gotten the contact information for our wedding venue. The venue coordinator called me, sounding confused. She explained that someone claiming to be Jake had called, trying to add 3 names to the guest list. Luckily, the coordinator was alert and checked with me before making any changes. I was shocked to learn that Mike had gone to such lengths. It felt like a huge violation of my boundaries and made me question whether his apologetic email had been sincere or just another manipulation tactic. This incident left me feeling even more certain that I had made the right decision in not inviting them. Jake was furious when I told him about Mike's attempted deception. He suggested we look into a restraining order, concerned that my family might try to crash the wedding. We're considering our options, but I'm hesitant to escalate things legally if we don't have to. The idea of taking legal action against my own family, no matter how justified, feels like a huge step. On a more positive note, Jake's family has been incredibly supportive throughout all of this. His parents invited me over for dinner last weekend, and his mom pulled me aside for a heart-to-heart. She told me that she considered me a daughter already, and that she was proud of me for standing up for myself. It was touching to feel so accepted and valued by them, especially in contrast to my own family's behavior. As the wedding gets closer, I'm trying to focus on the positive and not let my family's actions overshadow this special time. Jake and I have started premarital counseling, which has been really helpful in processing everything that's happened and strengthening our communication. We've been discussing our hopes for the future and how we want our relationship to be different from what I experienced growing up. We've also decided to do something different for our bachelorette celebrations. Instead of big parties, we've booked a private cooking class for us and our wedding party. It feels good to create new traditions that are meaningful to us, rather than following expectations set by others. I'm still struggling with feelings of guilt and sadness at times. There are moments when I catch myself daydreaming about a reconciliation, imagining my dad walking me down the aisle or sharing a dance with my mom at the reception. But then I remind myself of the reality of our relationship and why I made this decision in the first place. Despite the ongoing drama, I'm feeling more confident in my choices. The support from Jake, his family, and our friends has been invaluable. It's shown me what genuine love and support look like, reinforcing that I'm making the right decision for my future. As we enter the final weeks before the wedding, I'm trying to stay focused on the joy of marrying Jake and starting our life together. We've planned a small honeymoon getaway to a nearby beach resort, which I'm really looking forward to. It'll be nice to have some quiet time together after all the stress and excitement of the wedding. Thank you all for your continued support and advice. It's been a challenging journey, but I'm looking forward to starting this new chapter of my life with Jake. Update 3. It's been a whirlwind few weeks since my last update, and I wanted to share the latest developments with you all. The wedding day finally arrived, and despite all the drama leading up to it, it was absolutely perfect. Jake and I exchanged vows in a beautiful outdoor ceremony surrounded by our closest friends and his loving family. The weather was gorgeous, the food was delicious, and the dance floor was packed all night. One of the most touching moments came during the reception when Jake's sister gave a speech. She talked about how she'd always wanted a sister, and how thrilled she was to finally have one in me. It brought tears to my eyes and really drove home how fortunate I am to be joining such a warm, supportive family. As for my own family, they did try one last attempt to force their way into the wedding. About an hour before the ceremony was set to begin, my parents and Mike showed up at the venue. They were all dressed up and insisted they were there to support me, despite not being invited. I was getting my hair done when one of my bridesmaids came in, looking flustered. She quietly informed me that my family was outside, arguing with the security team. For a moment, I felt a mix of anger and sadness wash over me. But then I looked at myself in the mirror, in my wedding dress, and I knew I couldn't let them ruin this day. Thankfully, the security team we hired handled the situation swiftly and professionally. They escorted my family off the property without causing a scene or disrupting the preparations. I'm so glad we took the precaution of hiring security, as it allowed me to relax and enjoy my day without worrying about potential drama. The ceremony itself was beautiful. Walking down the aisle towards Jake, seeing his face light up as he saw me, I knew without a doubt that I had made the right decision. We wrote our own vows, and there wasn't a dry eye in the house when we finished. Jake's parents were beaming with pride, and I felt more loved and supported than I ever had before. The reception was a joyous celebration. We danced, laughed, and made memories that will last a lifetime. Jake surprised me with a song he had written for me, performing it with his college band. It was a moment of pure happiness that I'll cherish forever. In the weeks since the wedding, I've received a few messages from extended family members who attended. Most have been supportive, saying they understood my decision after seeing how happy I was on my wedding day. A few expressed disappointment that my immediate family wasn't there, but respected that it was my choice to make. Mike sent another email, this time apologizing for trying to crash the wedding. He said seeing the security team turn them away made him realize how serious I was about maintaining boundaries. He mentioned he's starting therapy to work on his issues, which I hope is true for his sake. As for my parents, I haven't heard from them directly since the failed wedding crash attempt. My aunt told me they're heartbroken, but trying to respect my wishes for space. Part of me feels guilty, but a larger part feels relieved to have this chapter closed. Jake and I are leaving for our honeymoon tomorrow, 2 weeks in Greece that we've been looking forward to for months. We're both excited to relax, explore, and start our married life together without any family drama hanging over our heads. Looking back on this whole experience, I'm proud of myself for standing firm in my decisions despite the pressure and guilt trips. It wasn't easy, but I know I did what was best for my mental health and my relationship with Jake. Thank you all again for your support and advice throughout this journey. It's meant the world to have this community to turn to during such a challenging time. I'm looking forward to this new chapter of my life and feeling optimistic about the future for the first time in a long while.